Hello and welcome to another wonderful video. Today I'm going to be telling you guys the story of the awesome sword. The awesome sword. Now, some of you may not know what the awesome sword is, so here's a quick video or two that I'm going to put up before like the rest of the video, so you guys can get an idea of what this awesome sword is, what it looks like, what it can do, that sort of thing. So enjoy that. This is my sword. It can do awesome things. I hit the roof by accident. But see, cool things. Okay, so basically, this sword, the story of getting this sword is actually really funny and interesting, so I thought I'd just go ahead and tell it. Anyway, it all starts off with, well, actually, you probably need a little bit of backstory first. Not too far down our road, there's this place called the Rock Quarry. We call it the Rock Quarry. Basically, it's this big field, and there's this giant rock wall all the way on the back, and then right below it, it's kind of up on a hill, like a cliff. It's on a cliff, but then there's like multiple layers of cliffs. It's kind of confusing, but basically, there's this giant rock wall, and then down below you there's another rock wall, and then it goes down into a like forest trails and stuff like that. It's not too far from our house. We can go up there. It's about a mile away. We walk up there every once in a while. It's a very fun place to kind of hang out. We played baseball there one time. It was a lot of fun. I got hit in the face in that time, but that's a different story. Anyway, moving on. So this rock quarry, me, my brother, and my sister-in-law, we're all going up there, and we're just hanging out. We're just walking, minding our own business, doing our own thing. We go up there. Once we get there, we kind of look around, kind of talk, do whatever. Well, I mean, we're talking on the way there too, but we're going up there, we're talking, just walking around, and I see this sword, this training sword, just sitting on the ground over there, and I'm like, that's strange. What is that? And I walk over to it, and I realize that it's the training sword. It's just, it doesn't have any color to it. It's not black or anything yet because my sister actually painted it, but it's just sitting there, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. And I pick it up, and I'm like, this is kind of cool. And I played around with it a little bit, and I'm like, I'm taking this. Because, I mean, you can't tell me, like, okay, if you find a sword in the woods, well, not necessarily the woods, but if you found a sword just kind of laying on the ground somewhere with no one else around, there's no house within miles, well, not necessarily miles because our house is like a mile away, but still, there's no one around, there's nothing around, but there's this sword just sitting on the ground. You can't tell me that you're not going to take it home with you. You just can't tell me that unless you're very afraid of swords or some other thing like that. But anyway, I decided I'm taking this home with me. And on the way home, I dub it the awesome sword, and basically that's how I found it. But the story goes on a little bit more than that, as you could probably tell, because we're only about 2 minutes in the video. Anyway, I get home and I'm playing around with this sword for a couple days, a week, something like that, and my brother calls me up and he's like, hey, you want to go on a walk with us, go to the rock quarry, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I debate on carrying my training sword with me. I'm like, there's no reason to carry that with me. Why am I carrying it with me? So I just leave it behind. I go with them. We get up there, and I kid you not, there's like these people already up here. It's like the most emo looking guy ever. He's got like this black cloak on, even though it's the middle of the summer. It was kind of chilly that day. I will give him that, but it's still pretty hot, and it's a black cloak. So he's wearing this black cloak looking thing, and I'm like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be here. Maybe we should leave. He's there with like two other guys. They're also in cloaks. Well, actually, one of them's in cloak, and the other one, I guess, is too popular for that or whatever, because he's wearing like normal clothing or whatever. He doesn't look like an emo. He actually kind of looks like a misfit, but that's besides the point. So this guy, once we get there, we kind of debate on whether or not we should leave. We kind of start turning around to leave, and he calls out to us. He's like, hey, you, and we all turn around and was like, what's going on? And he's like, you're the one. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're the one that took my training sword. And I was like, what? You're the one that took my sword. And he comes up to us, and we're kind of weirded out, because this guy, we don't know what's under this cloak, because he's kind of like hidden in this cloak. We can see his face and everything. We can see all their faces, but he's like hidden in this cloak. His arms are hidden. So we don't know what he's got. We don't know if this guy's gonna like pull out a gun on us and shoot us or something. And we're kind of sitting there with the arms up a little bit, not all the way up like we're about to be arrested, but like slightly up to like our shoulders. We're like, whoa, man, take it easy. Let's handle this like adults. Even though you kind of don't look like one or anything, even though you kind of don't seem like one. Let's treat this let's act like adults. This guy was like 25, 30 almost. I don't really know how old he was, to be honest. I'm really bad at guessing ages, but that's besides the point. We're kind of freaking out a little bit. He tells us that I'm the one that took the sword. He points at me. He's like, you took our sword. And I was like, what are you talking about? Obviously I'm playing dumb, but also I'm kind of terrified. So obviously I'm kind of getting my things mixed up. He accuses me of this, and I'm like, yeah, the sword. I was like, that sword that was just like laying on the ground. Of course I took that. It was up for grabs, right? I mean, it was just on the ground, and he said, you took it. You weren't supposed to take that. That wasn't yours to take. And I was like, but it was just sitting on the ground. And then it was either my brother or my sister-in-law. I can't remember who it was. They chime in saying, wait, how do you even know it was him? And he turns to his friend who's also in the cloak, and he pulls out a game camera. Now those little cameras that you set up for like hunting or whatever, he pulls this out of his cloak, because like he was kind of hidden in his cloak too. He pulls it out, and I was like, oh my god. So he pulls it out, and he's like, we have it on video. We have a game camera set up over here because we like to see who's interfering with our spot. They considered this like their spot, sort of like beach rules or whatever. They called it their spot. This is where they hung out all the time. Usually at night or whatever, and they like to set up a game camera because they had stuff there that sometimes that they might forget, or stuff that I don't really know why he had it set up, but he had it set up. It was his own little personal spot or whatever, I guess. I don't really know. I don't know why he had it set up. Maybe he was a hunter. I don't really know. But he had this game camera set up. It caught me on camera. He doesn't show me the footage, but obviously I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to try and deny it when there's very good chance that he knows I took it, obviously, so obviously he got it on camera, so I'm not going to deny it any further. I'm like, yeah, I took it. It was just on the ground. I thought it was, up for grabs, obviously. If you're going to find a sword on the ground, I'm going to take it. I basically tell him what I just told you guys. So he says, that wasn't yours to take. And I was like, but why was it on the ground anyway? It was just in the middle of nowhere by itself. And he turns to his friend that isn't in the cloak, and he says, that guy, he took it without permission, and he threw it off the cliff thinking it would be funny. I didn't know about it until the next day, and I've been trying to find you ever since. We've been coming here nonstop trying to catch you when you come back to try and steal more stuff. And he's going on and on and on and on. And I'm like, okay, well, I've kind of already painted it. It's completely different than what you know now. So, do you still want it? And he's like, yes, I still want it. And I'm like, but I love this sword. So I'm trying to be like, is there any way I can keep it? I'm trying to say that without saying it. And I'm not really sure how I put it, but I kind of put it in a way without saying, can I still have it? Anyway, he says, you can still have it. And then he pulls out his own training sword out of his cloak that he's been hiding this whole time. And he says, if you fight me for it. And I was like, whoa, man, hang on. I'm completely unarmed. We don't have anything. Take your sword, I can't fight you. And he said, I will give you a chance. Come back at dawn and we will fight over this sword. And I was like, seriously? At dawn we're going to fight over this sword? That's kind of lame. And he said, well, just come back at this time and we're going to fight over this sword. If you can best me in a sword fight, then the sword is yours. And I'm obviously skeptical of this. He pulls out a training sword too, so it's not like a real sword. So I'm thinking, maybe he's gonna fight with swords. And so I'm thinking, I go ahead and accept his thing or whatever, just so he calms down and doesn't attack us or follow us or anything. So I tell him to calm down. I'll fight you for it, or if nothing else, I'll bring it to you at this time. And so he lets that go. He says that will suffice, or something like that. It's something weird like that. He puts away his sword. He goes back over to his friends. His friends are kind of like patting him on the back, so to speak. It's kind of weird, but his friends kind of pat him on the back. I guess maybe this guy wasn't used to standing up for himself or something. I don't really know what the case was, but they pat him on the back for some reason. Anyway, I leave. We get home, and my brother and my sister-in-law was like, are you actually going to fight him? And I was like, well, I kind of feel like I have to. I don't really want to fight him, but I feel like I have to go there with my sword and kind of try and figure something out where either I can keep the sword or I can just give it to him and he'll leave me alone forever. Obviously, I'm worried that he's going to know where I live because, I don't know if there was a fourth guy in his group. I don't know if there was other people in his group. I don't know if he had someone following us on the way back. I don't know if there's some way that he was able to figure out where we live or anything like that. I'm nervous about that. So obviously, I'm thinking, worst comes to worst, he knows where I live now. He's going to break into my home at some point and either beat me up, fight me for it, or just steal it, maybe even steal other stuff. I don't really know. But anyway, I decide, you know what, I'm going to have to. So next day comes by, it's not dawn. We ended up negotiating that out. It's not dawn. But I go up there, I'm carrying my sword. They're with me again. I come up there, he's by himself. But he's not by himself. His friends are up on the cliff looking down at him. I will never know for sure, but I think they had a camera and I think they were recording the whole thing. I'm not 100% sure. But I get there and I'm like, do you seriously want to do this? I will pay you for the sword or whatever. And he says, no, it's too late now. You violated my honor, or something weird like that. And he said, it's too late. And then he has his sword out, he pulls it out, and I'm like, okay, well, here we go, I guess. And he starts swinging his sword at me. I'm mostly just parrying. I don't really want to fight this guy, so I'm just like parrying his attacks. If you don't know what parry means, basically it means you block an attack with the sword. Basically, I'm blocking his sword attacks with my sword, my training sword. They're both training swords. It's not that deadly. So he's swinging around. I noticed that he's not really swinging too hard. So I feel like I have the real advantage here because I know I can swing this thing pretty hard. I actually kind of played around with it a little bit here and there over the week before running into this guy for the first time. So anyway, I'm training sword fighting with this guy. I don't really know how to describe it, but I'm fighting this guy with my sword. It gets not really that intense. I'm basically parrying every attack. He's basically repeating the same attack over and over and over again. It's really lame. I think his friends and I think my brother and sister-in-law were laughing the entire time. I'm not really sure because I was focused too much on the attack on his attacks or whatever, even though they were the same every single time. So anyway, he's hitting me every single time, and eventually he gets tired, and he like does this weird hop backwards thing. He hops backwards a couple of feet or a couple yards, whatever, and he kind of starts taking deep breaths like he's out of breath, and I'm like, I'm a little bit out of breath because I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm not in that good of a shape either, so I'm a little bit out of breath. He's definitely out of breath, and after he catches his breath, he takes like this normal stance, like this normal standing stance, kind of back straightened, everything like that, and he puts his sword away, and he looks at me and says, "You're pretty good. You're worthy of the sword. You can have the sword." And he's still kind of out of breath, but he says all of that, and I'm like, okay. Look, okay, that's good and all, but I just want to make sure like you're never gonna mess with me anymore. You're like, is this it? You're 100% promising me this sword. I think I actually ended up recording this part, and he says on camera or whatever that he's accepting that he's giving away the sword. He's giving away this training sword to me, and I'm like, oh, sweet. Awesome. That's cool. Thanks, dude. So we get around to leave. Just before we leave, his friends return to him, and he calls back to us and goes, hey, and I was like, what? We turn around and I was like, oh God, he's not about to change his mind, is he? So I turn around, he goes, but we will meet again. And I was like, we will? What? He says, you won't know when, and I won't know when, but one day we will meet again. And I was like, okay, that's not creepy at all. So anyway, he stays behind or whatever. We leave, we get home, and we're kind of just talking about the whole situation. We think it's really funny. Anyway, that's basically the story of the awesome sword. Haven't really seen this guy since. It's kind of weird. I don't think I ever got his name because I don't really remember his name if he did say his name at any point. But anyway, yeah, that's the story of how I got the awesome sword. And it's really weird and wacky. But yeah, that's the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, do those wonderful things. Because when you do those wonderful things, not only do you get access to wonderful content such as this, but you get to become wonderful yourself. Anyway, like I said, thanks for watching. However you watched, and don't forget to stay wonderful.